for example, right now, you said this year, next year, I don't see the deficit moving. We're still going to be spending. It's going to take a year or two before we get there. Great. So then for somebody from the outside looks and says, okay, Dr. Ron Paul, so Trump is president now. So then say a person like a Joe Biden gets in 2028. I'm just making this up. I know a lot of people think it's going to be J.D. Vance and all that, but let's just say Newsom gets in. So then philosophies change. So if Elon and Trump do what they do the next 4 years and they show results, and say they drop another crisis that happens in 2028 to get people to hate Trump and Musk, and they use fear porn and they scare the crap out of America and they go for a person like Newsom, you're constantly changing the pendulum where philosophies don't have enough time to create momentum. I don't know if this makes sense. So this is kind of like Steve Bannon was on Cuomo yesterday, and Steve Bannon was telling Cuomo that, you know what we need? We need Trump to go for a third term. And Cuomo's like, that's not possible. We can't do that. And he says, no, that's what we need. We're already working on it. I don't know if you saw this clip or not, Rob. If you got it, you know, I want you to hear this clip here. It's Bannon with Cuomo, Rob. If you can play this, you'll hear the audio. Go for it.
Well, a man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. You know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue, because I don't want people to listen to our interview and say Bannon's cooking up an insurrection. Bannon is cooking up. You know what I mean? I want people to get a straight take on where your head is. What are you suggesting?
Chris, as you know, I've had greater long shots than this. When we supported President Trump after the election, I realize you don't believe the election in 2020 is still.
So I guess the question I'm asking is, in order for us to keep a philosophy of DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiencies, going and really teaching this, don't you think you need the same philosophy to be running the country for 12 years so everybody get locked in and saving money? Because if we keep changing administration, we're losing momentum.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be 2 years or 12 years. I would ask you, how long did it take to undermine the basic thrust of the revolution? You know, the Constitution and how it was written and what the 9th and 10th Amendments mean. That was an erosion that took a long, long time. The erosion came from the universities, and they're still there, and they preach this stuff. So I think the reason why I don't think that I'm not worried about it not being done in 6 months or 2 years or 3 years is the damage has already been done. There's been damage done by bad philosophy, but he created a monetary system and an empire. We have an empire. They don't but they do disappear, and I think that's what's big about what's happening today. But in economics, if you spend too much money and you have a lot of debt, and then you have a lot of malinvestment, because if you disrupt the interest rate, people do dumb things because they think there's a lot of money being saved, and there isn't. So you end up with bubbles, and the bubbles have to burst. There's a liquidation period. So the sooner people realize that liquidation is good. In 1921, there was this crisis that came up, but in 1921, they were still not a they weren't Keynesian, that you had to just print a lot of money. In a year and a half, the GDP went down sharply, like 15%. It was horrible, but they didn't have any bailout. And everything was recovered. See, what I'm convinced of, Patrick, is that if I got my freedom, and if you had your freedom, and everybody had their freedom, and you couldn't do any violence, that if they took all our wealth, everything in the bank is wiped out, I think that we're a year or two things would just be so booming, just so people would be rewarded for their effort. And it would never get that bad. There wouldn't be anything there. But if people didn't have an income tax and didn't have to deal with all this nonsense and all this regulation, that's what they're trying to do right now. That's what Musk is trying to do. But it's overwhelming of what it is. So I don't think it'll happen until people understand the philosophy of what's going on economics. Because if you run up a $36 trillion debt, you say, what does liquidation mean? We have to declare bankruptcy. If you or I had, $10 million debt and we had to quit, we'd have to get another job or declare bankruptcy or something so we could start over.
Right.
But not yet. We're not ready to start over yet. We're ready for the liquidation, and that's where the real test will be, because the cultural Marxists said we want chaos in the streets, and they're getting it, and it's going to get worse in the chaos in the street because they want to replace it with true Marxism. I want to replace it with true liberty.
Oh, so here's how I think about what you just said. So if we look at that right there, 1920, 1921, Rob, if you can go to the images to just see it, I know he won't be able to see it, but I'll kind of state it. So you'll see a big nosedive, right, with what happens that, in the economy. But what happened 8 years later? The Great Depression comes, and that gives the opportunity for a guy like FDR to say, this is why we need unemployment. This is why we need Social Security. This is why we need this. This is why we need that. If the situation and the scenario happened that you're claiming to happen, like let the market crash and go through it, I mean, you are giving the opposition and the Marxists an easy play to get out there and say, you see, we tried Trumponomics, we tried Doge, we tried this, and look what it did. It hurt the small guy. It hurt middle America. How are we going to handle it? So this is why when I have conversations with libertarians, I see myself as a libertarian when it comes down to economics. The only thing I see right now is in order for momentum to be created, where there needs to be a locked-in belief in one system for many years, I think that is very challenging to do in our kind of a system. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing Bannon and some of the other guys talking about we may need to have the same administration for back-to-back terms, even though he can't do it, for us to actually show results on what's possible.
Okay, I think you're looking for a gradualist approach, and that should always be, when they came up with a vote over the years when I was there, they put it on, attach it to a bill. Let's get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. So I was cynical. I said, you're not going to do it. And they didn't, but I voted for it. So there is a no. But on me setting the stage and helping the Marxists by pointing out this thing's going to get worse. Well, you don't have a choice. If I were there and imposed all these beliefs on shrinking capital overnight, or no, let's just say gradualism. That's what we're working on right now. Just think of the reaction they're getting. Trump and the whole group to try to come back, they're getting a lot of grief. But you don't have a choice. The damage has already been done. The money has been spent. The abuse of the currency has been done. You have the foreign policy. What did Trump say today? Well, what we need to do is take over all the electronic plants, all the power plants in Ukraine. Oh, they have oil. We'll take over that. How do we go into the Middle East, which I strongly oppose? They said, don't sweat it. Once we take over that oil, that'll pay for all this warmongering. So they always have that. But if the downside, the disappearance of the debt and the malinvestment. People don't talk about malinvestment. That's all the mistakes. That's when they have 2,000 houses and the market said there was only room for 1,000. There has to be a bubble there, and you have to have these corrections. But if you have the correction is going to occur, the people should understand 1921 versus what they did in the Depression. The Depression was horrible. They introduced so many programs, and it never worked until, the war will save us. Yeah, we'll kill millions of people and distract them from the stupid economic policies we have, and then we keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it goes back to the money issue. You could do any of this thing if you didn't permit fraud by a secret group of people to print money to take care of the special interest. Well, the poor people have to eat, don't they? Yeah, the poor people in the pharmaceutical industry, the military industrial complex, none of that would exist if you couldn't print money and maintain an empire that has demanding control of the reserve currency of the world. That will it dies. They die over the centuries, and this one is in the death throes. Pretty soon it will, but it won't be because we're tinkering around and cutting a couple dollars here and there.
Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.